I make games, and what people who make games do, apart from rarely finishing their game before starting a new one, is they enter game jams. So I took a look at what was going on and decided to leave it up to the gods of fate to determine the outcome. I'm Xanderwood. I make indie games and tutorials on game development. I also play your indie games every week on my channel. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell icon so you never miss a video. It was sticky, not because of the jam, but because of the time allowance. I don't like to be rushed when making games, mainly due to the fact that I'm not very good at making them, and I spend a lot of time with, trial and error, mostly error. My ideal jam time frame would fall between a few months and, well, forever. But then all my game jam games would be massively overscoped and end up being parked every time a new idea popped into my head. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get back to the task at hand, which is my game. The theme for the GeoJam was pick a side. GeoJam, if you've been living under a rock or don't know who Ikoso is, which would be odd as literally everyone's watched his best game engine video, where he used PowerPoint to make a game.
But none can compare to the one, the only. Microsoft PowerPoint.
You may also know him as a GDKO 2022 judge. What do you mean you've never heard of GDKO? Anyway, I'm digressing again. You clicked here to hear me talk about my entry to the GeoJam, so let's do just that. I thought long and hard for roughly 34 seconds.
That's what she said?
I couldn't allocate any more time because the jam was only a couple of days and I have a life. Hello?
Hello?
I decided to try and recreate the infamous glass bridge game from SQUID GAMES. SQUID game dev videos were really getting picked up by the YouTube algo back when SQUID Games was popular, so I was hoping to jump on the tail end of that trend. Oh man. I opened a new Construct 3 project and began to work. I originally added the tile movement behavior as that seemed logical based on the style of the game, but it was giving me a problem when trying to make the player move diagonally across the grid. To fix this, I switched the tile movement behavior to the move to behavior and programmed the player to move 24 pixels, which was the distance between my glass tiles in any given direction, based on whether the player was pushing W, A, S or D keys. My original idea was to give the player 3 button options when on a glass tile, one to move diagonally up, one to move diagonally down, and a third just to move straight across. I could have assigned position variables to track the player's position, but instead I decided to take an approach that would ultimately look worse, function poorly, and be totally unnecessary. Yay, game dev! And before we continue with the video, just a massive thank you and a shout out to my wonderful Patreons and YouTube channel members: Foozle CC, Amari Lewis, Rob, Matt, Julian Cruz, Seth Coble, M Mark Games, Fan Van, Mood for Sal, Lighting Cat, Retro Galaxy, Martin K, Olivia Bernier, Tor Alexanderson, Jared Dumont, Yanni Boy, Charcoal, and Ahmad Famansar. For more information about what's on offer on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I opted in the end for a directional compass, which gave the player the option to click an arrow and move in any given direction across the bridge. This was a fine idea for the boss level, as there were 3 paths you could take, but for the first 4 levels, the majority of the directional buttons were redundant. Next time I think I'd put the effort in and make a system that pops up with 3 buttons each time you move. This would add a QTE element to the game and stop me getting comments like this. I've really gotten into the groove of adding bosses to my games lately. I mean, look at my Bracky's Game Jam entry. I added 3 bosses. Bosses are simple enough to program as well. Just make sure you have a state machine to control them. For my little pink dude in Geo Games, I gave him 2 states, patrol and shoot. If the state is equal to patrol, I set him to move along the top of the screen, mirroring when his X position reached a certain point. This didn't work at first, as oftentimes he'd be way off screen when shooting, and it didn't look right. I fixed this by simply adding a condition to his movement events. Simply, if the player was more than 48 pixels to either the left or the right of the little pink guy, I would flip him and reverse direction. This kept the boss close to the player, as if he was stalking him. I then used every X seconds to change his state from patrol to shoot. A quick shoot animation spawned in some new fire sprite animation, and we had a pretty decent little boss trying to kill you as you stumble across a glass bridge which is also trying to kill you.
In fact, you're gonna have to work very hard to stay alive, Nick. Now, do you understand everything I've said?
I threw together 4 pretty crappy levels and a boss fight, which in my opinion was the best bit of the game. Then uploaded it to itch to see what the community thought of my work. Remember, if you liked the video, it's totally free to click the thumbs up button and maybe subscribe for future content. Oh, and if you want to join the Patreon, you can get access to all kinds of free wonderful goodies, such as the template and game pack to this game, where you can recreate, deconstruct, reverse engineer, or just look at how badly I wrote the code. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.